Today I compiled 10 of my album reviews of the Rolling Stone 500 Greatest Albums of All Time list. Today I listened to album 310. Why is 1977 album Pink Flag? Why is debut albums a record of first drafts? A scrapbook of disparate musical elements, briefly picked up and then turned discarded before anyone could get invested. It's an anarchic mismatch of genre, melody and harmony, a cacophony of drum, guitar and voice. It's pure uncut rock and roll. Though it's brief, its radio track out of 35 minutes, to an average of 100 seconds each, has been highly influential. Mr. Suit was its out of place on the Black Flag album, Mannequin could be an R.E.M. song, and this is the three-girl rumba and a random elastica track back to back and work out which is which. I don't have much of an impression of why it's beautiful on this album. They're too musically varied and disparate and unformed to leave much of an impression. This record is also fun to listen to. 3.3 out of 5. Today I listened to album 309, Joy Division's 1980 album Closer. Joy Division's second and final album is basically one man's suicide pact. It's a dark, foreboding gothic punk album, where we get to hear a man breaking down under the stress of his mental and physical health struggles. The catchiest song written during this recording session, Love Will Tear Us Apart, is unfortunately not included in this album, and I do think Closer is missing something without its crown jewel. Otherwise, the great drumming and opener Atrocity exhibition, and the moody but still propulsive 24 Hours are two highlights. Closer is not an album to listen to every day, and if you can't tear yourself away from it, it might be a sign of doing too well. It's a haunting and captivating listen. 3.1 out of 5. Today I listened to album 308. Eno's 1984 album Here Come the Warm Jets. I have to come clean now, I can't stand Brian Eno. I don't like his later ambient work, I don't like his former band Roxy Music, either when Eno was a member or after he left. I certainly don't like Eno's debut solo album Here Come the Warm Jets. I find it fundamentally unpleasant to listen to, grinding synths and painful guitar squeals, with nary a hook to be found on the record. Also, is it controversial to call Eno a bad singer? I don't like his voice in any case. Relatedly, I won't bother to interrogate the lyrics either. Eno reportedly never enjoyed writing lyrics, and soon gave up on that entirely, so certainly not going to stray my ears listening to a screech owl who doesn't even think his own words are important. To get away from the vitriol briefly, I thought the two closing tracks, some of them are old, and the title track were a bit better than the rest. But none of the songs on this record really impressed me. 2 out of 5. Today I listened to album 307, a 2003 compilation of Sam Cooke's work entitled Portrait of a Legend, 1951 to 1964. The story of the birth of rock and roll is well understood. Sister Rosa Tharpe, Ike Turner, Little Richard, B.B. King, Big Mama Thornton, Elvis Presley, and the Beatles and beyond. I'm much less familiar with the birth of the soul, the genre invented in the 50s which similarly combined elements of R&B and gospel with a larger focus on vocal ability. Ray Charles made the first soul superstar, but Sam Cooke was there right from the start. It started off with gospel group The Soul Stirrers, and there are a few religious tracks sprinkled throughout this compilation, the vast majority are pop music hits. Most of the songs are love songs, but Sam Cooke wasn't afraid to be political, including Chain Gang is the most famous song A Change Is Gonna Come. It's a bit jarring to hear songs like these immediately preceded by trite nothings like Only 16 and Sugar Dumpling. I have to admit that I was sad when this album finished, with no better recommendation than that. 3.5 out of 5. Today I listened to album 306, Al Green's 1972 album I'm Still in Love With You. My interest in Al Green goes up and down like a solid tremulation of his voice. I reviewed two of his albums so far, first the Greatest Hits album which I thought was pretty meh, and then Call Me, Al Green's sixth record which I thought was worse than mediocre. Then it is to my surprise I really enjoyed this album, The Future Reverend's fifth and the predecessor to Call Me. I've heard some of the songs before in this ranking, such as the title track and Look What You Done For Me, which I think are pretty decent. Other highlights include the catchy Love and Happiness and the light funk cover of Oh Pretty Woman. The instrumentals are not showy, but they're sharp and sophisticated, with bright horns, scratchy guitars, and bouncy bass lines. And Green's voice twists and turns just above the groove, like seagulls flying low across the waves. If you want some criticisms, some of the songs, particularly his cover of Chris Christopherson's For the Good Times, are a bit boring, but I was very much impressed with his effort. 3.4 out of 5. Today I listened to album 305, Kiss's 1984 album Alive. There's nothing more shameful than liking a Kiss album. I mean, the rock band for children write silly little nursery rhymes for baby's first hard rock riffs. They use the aesthetic of heavy metal, with the SS logo and demon makeup, or produce music milquetoast enough to be played in church. They're no longer even a band, since lead singer Gene Simmons sold the rights to the band to make ABBA-style hologram avatars. But this record, a live recording of songs from the first three studio albums, is really fun to listen to. Musically, Kiss drew inspiration from the British ground rock bands like Slade, Sweet and Mud, who prioritize catchy choruses and simple riffs over technical abilities and political lyrics. It might not be smart, sophisticated, or novel, this album truly makes you feel alive. 4 out of 5. Today I listened to album 304, Bill Withers' 1981 album Just As I Am, The American Dream. A country where you can go from a factory worker to global soul superstar after being overheard singing. It almost sounds like American propaganda, but it didn't really happen. In actuality, I probably wouldn't use it as American propaganda, given how sour and bitter Withers can sound, when open to Harlem and discover Everybody's Talking. In fact, Withers sounds pretty downbeat throughout, even the big hit Ain't No Sunshine. The last line on this record is I'm better off dead. As for Withers' telling of the album, he gives us thesis on track 6. Booker T. Jones encouraged Withers to sing, and he resolved to do it good. 2.8 to the 5. Today I listened to album 303, a 2001 compilation album of ABBA's work entitled The Definitive Collection. I don't believe there's an ethnic component to pop music's success. For example, you may notice a lot of the musicians featured on the list are black. That's got nothing to do with ethnicity, but more the shared history and culture that have shaped music production. The one exception to this is Swedes, who I believe are bred in the lab to create perfect pop music. ABBA weren't the first, so I think I'm the last, but probably the most important iconic Swedish pop group ever. This album is a comprehensive list of ABBA singers between 1983 and 1983, including hits like Waterloo, Mamma Mia, and Gimme 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 and Man After Midnight, demonstrating their unique musical synthesis of Phil Spector's Wall of Sound, Motown, and glam rock. The song starts to drag towards the end of the record. This really is the only ABBA album you ever need to listen to. 3.4 to 5. Today I listened to album 302, Neil Young's 1985 album Tonight's the Night. This is the second album on this ranking recorded shortly after Neil Young's mainstream breakthrough in Harvest, though it was delayed for a couple of years. After the sour and bitter On the Beach, Tonight's the Night is a more genuinely enjoyable album. There's a lot of sadness on this record. The two title tracks book on the album are memorials to one of his roadies, Bruce Berry, and he wishes he could go back to being a child on the painful Mellow My Mind. The high point of this album is the cover of Come On Baby, Let's Go Downtown, originally by his former backing band Crazy Horse, which is the only real rock song on this record. Tonight's the Night is too sad to enjoy in the normal times of the world, but if you listen carefully, you might just hear some hope and healing. 2.8 to 5. Today I listened to album 301, New York Dolls' 1983 self-titled album. Listening to the New York Dolls' debut album is just reported to a dingy nightclub in the Big Apple. The music's blaring, the lights are glaring, the bell bottoms are flaring, and on stage, occasionally off stage depending on the interaction to whatever pills are on in a third mojito, a heavily made up band is playing revved up rock and roll in mile-high stilettos. New York Dolls certainly drew attention. Compared to other proto-punk bands in the studios at the NC5, New York Dolls was definitely more polished. They could play in time, in tune, and surprisingly introspectively, like on the heart-wrenching ballad Lonely Planet Born. The biggest hit on this record is the opener, Personality Crisis. They play a delightful and reckless abandon on every song. 3.4 out of 5. Like, share, comment, and subscribe.